I'm going to dive in with asking you a whole bunch of questions. Before I get started with doing that, I do just want to say one personal welcome from myself. It's really a great honor to have you here, and especially because it's not only that we as NCJW are involved in the ways that Laura explained, but I myself live here in Israel, and so does Einat, my colleague, who is helping us on the call today. And we are both involved. We're both here. I personally moved here 21 years ago to Israel. I made my family here. We are also, this is our struggle. We are involved in different ways, different groups, and we are out on the streets ourselves. And so I did just want to begin by saying a very personal and heartfelt thank you to you, Shikma, for your inspirational leadership over these long and very tiring 9 months that we've been in this struggle. So I wanted to start by asking you, please, to just share a little bit. People may have read about you, but still, to share a little bit of your personal story and explain how it came to be that you are what New York Times has described as the symbol of struggle. How did you get to this place?
Right, I'm plugging in.
Well, that's a tough one. I think, first of all, I really want to say that there are tons, literally many different leaders in this protest. It just happened to be that I found myself, due to different circumstances, in a position where I'm a bit more familiar than other. One thing that we need to work on is to bring more people into the front stage, so that the world will know them, will know us.
Wow, there's his face.
People in Israel will know us. There is a huge lack in modern democracies, Western democracies. I think there is a lack, specifically in Israel. You know what? I will not speak on behalf of countries. I'm maybe missing some knowledge. A huge lack of leadership, in the sense of people that you identify with as fighters for democrat liberal values, simply because for years we took them for granted.
One minute, Shikma, you need to unmute yourself. I'm sorry. Could you let's just unmute you?
Sure. I'm saying what I can dive with more details into that, but clearly what is happening in Israel is not unique to Israel. There is a global trend of transforming democratic countries into like tyrannies within law. I think this may be the term in English. Hungary, Poland, Turkey, Venezuela, and many other countries went through similar procedures. Some of them are within this process, but at different stages. And what we are seeing is just the same procedure embedded within Israeli society and Jewish world. And this is why we are talking about it. So I do think that, it's a global effort in this respect, but clearly this huge crisis that we are facing is also, once we win, I think that we have a good chance to look at this moment in history as a transition point that work for the benefit of Jewish people and Israel in history. So we just need to win first. It's not highly non-trivial, but
okay. So let's talk about that. About we need to win.
Yeah.
What I think would be really helpful is to help people to understand what that looks like. What does it mean to say we need to win? We've been in this now for 9 months, as I said, 38 weeks, and we're talking about this thing which has been termed the judicial overhaul. That's the crux of it. And when the initial package of judicial overhaul laws was introduced by the Justice Minister Yariv Levin, there were sort of 7 key laws. But at the same time, there's also another number floating around of 225 law proposals that are anti-democratic. So I want to really put to you, Shikma, what does it actually look like for this movement to win? What is the end game for the protest movement?
I think end game would mean being convinced that from now on depth changes in our judicial system, in our constitutional structure, will only be accepted based on broad consensus, and this will ensure that we can guarantee our democrat liberal country for generations to come. So this is, I think that I started, usually I don't start this way, and I don't know why I did it this time, but I just felt like I want to say that there are tons of excellent people. I can tell you why I see things the way I see them, and you talked correctly about 225 different laws that have been placed on the parliament desk, on the Knesset desk. You need to read these laws, not with details, but to understand, not just to read them, understand what kind of Israel they're actually drawing for us, and then believe that this is the government plan. So we are in a very, I think, unique situation. We don't need to guess what their plan is. Yariv Levin spoke it out loud, and since then they have placed these 225 different laws on the parliament desk. And people often, it's hard to digest. We don't want to look at them. We don't want to acknowledge or to appreciate that this is their plan. And what we tend, as human beings to do because of the threat is just to say, no, they are not going to pass that. But we cannot, there is no reason to believe that they're not going to pass that. This is their plan. It is well written. All you have to do is to read it, digest it, appreciate it, and then get yourself together and start acting against that. Because if they succeed, the Israel that they are drawing with these laws, and you don't need to pass all of them in order to initiate and to pass the point of no return. It's enough enough that they will manage to pass just a few, and then the way back is just it's just blocked in a similar way that it is blocked now for the Hungarians and people in Poland and in Turkey maybe.
So thank you for laying it out in that way. And I think that, it can be, sometimes it can feel a little bit academic or almost sort of talking about these different laws, and suddenly we all have to be experts, legal experts, to understand what's going on. And you certainly make a strong case that there is a very clear agenda that is greater than the sum of its parts, but certainly all of its parts add up to that agenda. I want to take
so that this is their agenda. Let me interfere. This is their agenda.
Yeah.
We have seen what they are willing to sacrifice in order to fulfill their agenda. They are willing to sacrifice our economy, our healthcare system, our education system, our academia, our high-tech industry, our safety. It was obvious when Netanyahu fired the Minister of Defense, when he said out loud that continuing with this judicial overhaul is a threat to our nation security. So they are basically willing to sacrifice everything. They don't care. They are willing to tear apart the country. Less than 20% of the people support this, what the government is doing, and they are still continuing. So they are willing to sacrifice everything in order to accomplish their agenda. And we have also realized how fragile our system is. So this is the current situation. This is the current threat, and it is real because their plan is written. They are willing to sacrifice everything, and we have a fragile system. And I interrupted you.
There's a question in the chat here which says, could you be more specific about the laws? And I would like to say, please do be more specific about the laws, but also, obviously, I don't expect you to go into 225 laws being specific. So I think that if you can address that in a way that also, is sort of realistic to the time that we have.
I'll give just a couple of examples. The simpler one, I think. But first of all, there is an excellent domain called dictatura.today, and you'll find the English version of it, and it just
it
shows
lays out all those laws, and it categorizes
right.
as well in terms of different types of rights that they attack.
Yeah, and I think several tens of them actually deal with how so we all usually talks about resemblance codes. We talk about the changes they want to force on the judge selection committee, such that they will control judges and so on. But if you go, you will see that they also have a rules that say that the committees that decide which parties can run for the parliament, they are basically going to control this committee, and that the Supreme Court will not have any say about its decision. So they are going to have the committee that can rule out every party for whatever reason, and then there is nothing you can do about it. So think about that, and then just rule out, a party that the standard things that they would probably try to do is to exclude the Arab parties from running, and then you exclude out all the Arab community, and then they control forever. And if you do the equivalent in Hungary, for instance, one of the first things that Orban did was to change the election domain such that he basically controls the election. And this is just one, the implementation of the same thing in Israel. If you look at these 225 different laws, you'll see that they have a law there where they say that the coalition get automatically 12 more seats in the parliament on the expense of the opposition. So this guarantees huge majority, meaning you cannot basically go against the coalition, which will, of course, set all the laws, etc. So these are crazy stuff. It's super hard to even believe that they are going to do so. But this is their plan. This is who they are. This is what they are willing to do.
Well, you talk about they. So let's just break down the they. And I think, to a certain extent, people do understand. But there are different. We have a coalition government. We have different parties making up that coalition, and different ideologies within the coalition, and different motivations, perhaps, or incentives that are at play for these different laws to be enacted, or to kind of gain the kind of unchecked power that you describe.
Yeah.
So what do you think is really going on in terms of why this is happening? How are we in this place where all these different agendas are pulling us in these different directions?
So first of all, I want to make a clear distinction between the people who voted for the coalition parties and the they that I am referring to, who are the people who lead this judicial overhaul, or this coup, right? Because this coalition, who has 64 Knesset members, was actually elected based on a minority. If you look at the entire votes, more people voted against the coalition than for it, in small number, but because of the rules of the game, the coalition, they happen to have 64 seats. So to begin with, they don't have the majority even on the election day, but fine, they were chosen legitimately. And this coalition relies, as I interpret it at least, but others as well, on three different legs. One is the ultra-Orthodox. They don't need a judicial overhaul. They simply need to find a way to justify the fact that they are treated unequally and get benefits without contributing basically to the society, to the army, and so on. There is the other leg of ultra-extremist groups who, really promote racist ideas, Jewish supremacy.
Yeah, kind of supremacist ideologies, really.
Right. Yeah. And they need, well, if you think in terms of supremacists, as you said, then you cannot live in a democracy, right? And this can be, so they need to somehow justify the fact that they are supreme, also from the point of view of laws. And of course, this is usually, mostly was used against Arab communities and Palestinian communities, but now in the last weeks, it's also turned against, people who are unlike them inside Israel, because as you know, I mean, racism doesn't stop where we want it to stop. This is like the law of racism. And then there is the third part, which is what Netanyahu drew nicely as, separating first Israel from second Israel. And this relies on the fact that there are groups in Israel who have been not benefiting, let's say, from the Israeli traditional democracy, or not raised to think that they were benefiting from it. And Netanyahu simply, as his close advisor once recorded saying, find a way to enhance hatred to unite a camp. And I look for these records. It's like unbelievable that this is it's not just an idea, but really a work plan of how to enhance hatred to reunite, or to unite, to create a camp. So these are the three legs that basically, if you think of it, someone wise said, I'm not quoting who it was because I never asked for permission, but he said, look, the traditional Israeli democracy actually focused on two dimensions. One is the economic dimension, and the second is the military one, and we were very successful in that, but we completely neglected the third dimension, which is the society. And any group in the society which was neglected, if it's the ultra-Orthodox, if it's these racist groups that haven't been treated, or peripheral geography mostly, this is now, if Netanyahu found a way to turn them against, the system, against the elite groups, against that. So I think that this is what's happening, and they are the people, the 20% who actually support what the government is doing. This is a tiny group. If you see the protests, the pro-judicial coup protests are mainly addressed by the ultra-extremist Jewish supremacy groups and some of the others that I just mentioned. But this is by far not the voters of the coalition. It's a small group. It's a small group of people.
That's true. But I think you're touching on the issue of social solidarity. And no doubt, things have been at play for years and years, decades, that have been tearing apart our social solidarity in Israel. That's the truth of the matter. But right now we have a very delicate situation, as we just saw on Yom Kippur, with the situation that happened, with the prayer service in Tel Aviv that went ahead, that was organized by a group that want to sort of spread out their way of being Jewish amongst other populations. And the municipality of Tel Aviv didn't want that service to go ahead with a barrier, with a mechitza between men and women. And they appealed to the court, and the court said it couldn't go ahead with that barrier because there couldn't be gender segregation in the public sphere. But they went ahead anyway with a sort of a makeshift barrier, and many and local residents got really angry and protested, and the result of it were scenes that were very tragic to see. Erev Yom Kippur, Kol Nidrei, very poignant moment for everybody, all Jewish people everywhere. And we saw really heartbreaking scenes, really, because the police that came didn't enforce the court ruling, and the service was going ahead, and protesters were angry about it. So whatever you take on that incident and what should have happened, what shouldn't have happened, the reality is it does underscore this incredible strife that we have right now. Even President Herzog, back in March, said he thought that if you think that a real civil war isn't possible, you'd be wrong. So I want to ask you, Shikma, what do you think can be done, or what does the protest movement need to do to advance unity within society at this time, whilst of course not giving up on its core principles and its fight for democracy.
Right. So I think you described nicely this heartbreaking event in Yom Kippur 2 days ago. I think that maybe 2 points that are missing, and you try to understand sometimes what is actually going on, who is, starting and who is to blame. So 2 things you have to ask yourself when it comes to events in Israel. First, who provoked the situation? Who are the groups behind the provocation? And then you will find them, because they said that they are going to do that, and you will find out that they are the super Jewish supremacy groups, and who is benefiting from that on the political level. And you will see who was the first to tweet, even almost before Yom Kippur was out that day. And this was Netanyahu again, blaming the left-wing people for not being Jewish. So if you look at this entire event and put it in the context of who provoked the situation and who benefit from it, then you understand quickly what was actually happening. It doesn't mean, that you know how to solve it. It doesn't mean that it does not create, all kind of question and raise problems and so on. But the picture is very, 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 very clear on the logic level. And I think that, there are enough people who see that winning such a long battle. No, I don't think that there are, examples for this in the history. We will have to be the first. So when you ask me how we are going to proceed, how we are going to maintain those relations, I'm telling you, we need to want to do it really hard. We need to understand that this is super important. We need to know that we have no chance of surviving as a democrat liberal country and as a Jewish nation if we don't find a way to do it. Doesn't necessarily mean that I have all the solutions today. The country, the people are really torn, and there is a very efficient machine constantly working on tearing us apart, dividing us around those different, on this exactly fragile points. And we have a prime minister, we have a government who doesn't work on solving all these, points, weak points, but use them to tear the country apart because it serves their ambition, serves their ideology. And we have to figure that out, understand that, and find everything and do everything that we can as Israeli citizens and as Jewish worldwide to stay together and to understand who is doing what we are. And I think that many people understand. Whether it's going to be enough, I believe so, but I don't have the certainty.
Okay, well, there are a lot of questions amassing in the chat. And some of them are conveniently, in any case, questions that I wanted to ask. So I'm going to sort of go through some of them in no particular order, except the order that I feel like I'd like to hear you talk about things. So as you know, we are the National Council of Jewish Women. We are a large movement of American Jewish women. We're a veteran organization. We are 130 years old. We just had our birthday. And we were actually founded by a very feisty woman leader 130 years ago, not unlike yourself. And so it is of interest to us in particular, and of concern to us in particular, the situation for women in Israel and the threats to women. And I wanted to ask you how you feel about this as a woman. What are your fears? You're a mother of girls, quite a few. 5 girls, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure this is uppermost on your mind. So please share.
So first of all, I have to emphasize again, you don't need to guess. You just need to look outside and believe to what you're seeing. There are places in Israel when women are forced to sit at the back seat of the bus where like 14-year-old girls go up on a bus with a t-shirt and they are asked to move backward. There are places with sign demanding women to go on a different side, and segregation is continuously going, including this event in Yom Kippur that you mentioned, on a forced way, not just by goodwill of people. And you can also look at the government itself. There are about, I don't remember, maybe 6 women in this entire coalition, if I remember correctly, a couple female ministers, and they have resigned. All the women, apart from one, were holding, high key positions like CEO of ministries and so on. So you don't have to get
right? I think there's only one left.
One left. So you don't need to guess. And I think, we are just after Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur war is known for, the blindness of our, the people inability or the refusal to just see the letters written on the wall, refuses to say that the Syrian division moving ahead of us can actually continue into Israel. They refuse to accept that. And what we are having today is exactly the same. It's not even written on the wall. It's written in the form of 225 different laws. Read them, understand their meaning, and act, because it's there. It's all there. It's all out there. It's very clear. Women conditions are already degrading and will continue degraded just by, it becomes normal. Likewise, the LGBT community, by the way, is being affected immediately, even before any law was changed, just by the atmosphere, just by the ecosystem. So I'm not
the normalization of
ideas, of statements, of concepts, because you if there are hundreds of different events, how can you even start addressing them? It's about the common values. It's about the atmosphere. You cannot, fight everything with laws and then go and see what laws they are proposing, see that they are interested in giving more power to the Jewish Orthodox courts, which decide based on a biblistic concept, which prioritize male over female. Just read their plan, and digest it and act, because you don't need to guess. You just need to believe. You just need to take your head out from the ground and believe to what you're reading. Believe that this is their plan, because this is their plan.
They say so. Okay, so the title of this conversation is "What's Next for the Protest Movement?" So I would like to talk a little bit about what's next for the protest movement, and I want to kind of bring in a few thoughts that have come through in the chat, and a few other thoughts that have come through from other voices that I know about. So first of all, there are questions in the chat about, shouldn't you just be trying to bring down the government? Are these tactics working? What other kind of tactics could you have? What are the ideas you have up your sleeve? So there are those sorts of questions. So just hold that one bucket. Yeah. I also want to ask you a question about what the protest movement talks about and what the protest movement maybe doesn't talk about. There is a big question, and I think that internationally there is a question of, should we, is the protest movement talking about the occupation of the Palestinians enough? Should it be talking about it more? Kalela, who is the president of the New Israel Fund, wrote in an article in Kalkalist in Hebrew over the weekend that she thinks that it's important not just for moral reasons, because we can see what's going on in the West Bank and we can see how these supremacist ideas are already playing out over there, like you're saying that they do also in terms of for women. But Javier said, this is also a tactical issue. We really need to expand the protest movement, and we need to bring in more Arab voices to the protest movement. And that means that we need to address the needs and concerns of Arabs in this country, which include the occupation, and also, of course, which include violence in Arab society. So there's two buckets there. One is about tactics, the other is about the occupation. And the third one is, get ready for it, we are an American organization. And the American Jewish community and the people on this call really want to know what your vision is for involvement of American people, for involvement of the American, for groups that have power in different kind of ways within the US. So those three buckets around what next, floor is yours.
I hope I'll remind all of them, I'll try
I'll
to answer
remind
one
you,
by one.
We'll try. We don't have that
Cool.
much.
So let's try one by one. So the first was about tactics. And I think that, we are a protest movement. It's actually consists of about 200 different groups, all formed super intuitively by individuals who just formed WhatsApp groups and unite around them people of different segments and different sectors. And there are also some sort of traditional protest groups which are not united around segmentation of the population. And there is no real single voice in this, different people holds different flags. And the nice thing, I think that the main success that we had so far was to understand that despite the fact that different people are holding different flags, because, they have different they work in different things and they have different opinions about different things. We are still united around, the idea that we want to live in a liberal democratic country, a normal country, right? So it's more about, I think, as you said, tactics than deep strategic decision. What we are trying is to prevent them basically from achieving succeed passing those laws that will eventually could get to the point where the situation is irreversible. And what will happen next depends, I think, a lot on what will happen on the, on the arena in different levels. I mean, for me, if tomorrow they decide that they decide and, pass the single law that I think need to be passed, and that is the depth changes in our constitutional structure will only be accepted based on broad consensus. If they decide to do that, I'm happy to stop, right? I'll face. So it really depends on what they're going to pursue, what they're going to push forward, in what way, whether it's going to be aggressive, are they going to. So I think that the next step on their menu is the army-related law. So to give the ultra-Orthodox the official permission to basically not be part of the army, which is separating one blood from another in the country. And if they go in this direction, we will have to react in one way. And they will try also to change again the committee for judge election to get politicians control and coalition control
The
over
judicial
the judges.
appointments. The judicial appointments.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so, and then on that, we will have to prevent that from happening. We'll have to be out there to back up those who, remaining gatekeepers to take the right decision when time comes, and rule out things that create a non-reversible damages to our democracy. If you think about, protest movement as a whole, what the protest is doing, I mean, we are not voting in the parliament. What we are doing when we go out is embed a pluralistic confidence in the people. So allow people to understand that they belong to a large group and that their opinion matters and they can speak up. They don't. The opposite of pluralistic confidence is pluralistic ignorance, and this is the state where you're not aware of the size of the group you belong to, and as a result, you either sit quietly or even change your opinion. So what we are doing, we are giving ourselves and the gatekeepers the confidence that they are part of a big group, so they can feel safe and secure to to act and take decision based on the morals and values they believe in. And this has to reflect into decision making in the army, in the police, in the Shabak, at the courts, at every school, etc. So this is, you know, the one bucket of tactics depend on, you know, the bigger picture. We are maintaining pluralistic confidence in the people, in the majority of Israel, about 70% at least, who would like to live in a normal democratic country. This is the strategic thing of having a running protest, and the tactics will depend on what they will try to pass. But the idea is just to be out there and give the guts to whoever need the guts to do the right thing. Then on the other bucket, which was the which one was it? It wasn't the American, it was the occupation, etc. So first of all, I would like to
that was America, yes.
Yeah, I would like to say that there are several groups within Israeli society who are not part of the protest, even though they should be part of it. You talked about Arab communities. I can tell you there are geographical periphery. There are groups, for instance, of immigrants from Ethiopia, from Russia. They're not, I mean, in principle, they are with us by their opinion, but they are not actively participating in the protest. The reason for it, at least as I interpret it, I might be wrong, of course, is that those groups basically did not benefit from Israel's traditional democracy. It's not just that they didn't benefit, but when they protested to get their rights in place, we didn't join them. So they probably, it might be that they tell themselves, look, what these people are doing, they basically want us to be back to like 30, 40 years ago. We didn't like what we had there. We don't trust them that, you know, when they don't trust me, I guess, when I said that we would like to build a better Israel for the benefit of all, without, regardless of sex and gender and religious, etc. They don't, you know, they mistrust us. For a good reason, I cannot blame them. It is true that when the Ethiopian community were protesting hard and got beaten by the police, I didn't join them. I'm not proud of that, but they are right.
Talking about several years ago when...
Several years ago, this is just one example. It's also true for Arab communities, etc. Now, each of these groups, and there are tons of other things in Israel that have been neglected. The Palestinian problem is just one of them. And different people hold different flags. But as I said, the strengths, and imagine, believe it or not, but there are people who believe that the biggest problem, the only reason why Israel is undergoing what we are undergoing, is the occupation. Personally, as I said, what we have in Israel is a global trend. And it happens also in countries where we don't have, you know, Palestinian problem. So it's just embedded in Israel. So I don't think that it is one-to-one a fault of one particular thing, not the occupation, either anything else. But there are people who are certain that everything that is happening in Israel is because of the Palestinian problem. There are others who think, and they are just equally right as far as I'm concerned, that everything that is happening here is because of the fact that we have neglected different, like the geographical periphery. You see it by the ways that people are voting. And some concern or will say, and I also totally agree, that everything that we see here is the fact that we allow the Jewish Orthodox community to grow in the way that they have without, you know, proper education. So which one is right? Everyone is certain that...
Meaning that there isn't a commitment to secular studies at their schools.
Yeah. So we are there hosting, basically, not hosting, but you know, living together with the community who basically kind of doomed to be part of itself and not be part of the society, and they vote as one, almost as one. So everyone is right. Every single thing that has been neglected by us in society is now joining against us. As a protest movement, we cannot, you know, which flag to choose. So individuals can hold different flags. I agree with some, I disagree with others, but it doesn't matter. As a movement, we need to focus on, you know, the core, on the concept, and the concept is Democrat liberal values, and this is why you don't see us focusing on one particular thing. Obviously, when you see this massive violent act of terror, basically, of Jewish supremacy people in Arab villages, we talk about it. But it's in a similar way that when we see, things related to that from the Jewish Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox communities, etc. So I think that at least this is how I explain this to myself. But I also think that it makes sense. And then with regards to Jewish community worldwide in the US and other, and I'm amazed that I actually remember it. So,
well, you are, you're a particle physicist. You have good, strong mental capacities to divide them.
So I think that I think, again, there are different ways to try to address this question and to look at it. I'll pick some. It's not the only one. I think that, for generations, we lived in the country. We felt that something very bad is going on. We suffered from huge pluralistic ignorance. We thought that we are a small group of people, and that the demography is such that, just a small minority of people actually feel the way that we feel. So we kind of, lay our head down, hoping that this wave will pass, focused on our own business, because, we thought that fine, democracy.
Which we are you talking about? I just wonder.
I think, I would say people like myself. So people that, wanted to see different Israel, but never did anything, to active to make it happen. We kind of diverted from Israel. We lived our own life. I think this is to some extent happened, and this is how I see it to Jewish, the young generation of Jewish people worldwide in the US. We kept hearing that the young generation are diverging from Israel. We didn't, pay a lot of attention to that maybe, but we also diverted from the country. We just happened to live here in a weird way. And I think that this public awakening that we see now, the civil awakening, is actually an excellent opportunity to show the different face of Israel also, to Jewish specifically young generation worldwide, people who gave up, who didn't want to be part of it. We didn't want to be part of it. We were part of it because we lived here and we understood that, we want the country to be safe and succeed, but we didn't, participated in the, day-to-day debates and struggles. We were hoping things will get better. So it's a huge opportunity also for the Afro communities to be part of it. And it certainly very much super important. You have to understand that what we are trying to do is very hard to achieve. It's hard to stop such a big coalition with such a madness ideology, with completely, we say that they don't have a God, in the sense that they are really willing to sacrifice everything to succeed in what we are trying to do. And I do hope that we will succeed, and I think that we can, is so non-trivial. So any help is important. One thing to, I think, understand these days, that supporting Israel, and we all want to support Israel, supporting Israel is supporting the people of Israel. I think that this conflict that people are constantly having of saying that if we say something bad about the country, we are actually, doing wrong to the country because Israel always needs this help. It's true, but you don't have to, it's not the country that is bad. The people are excellent. The people are much better than we all thought, actually. It's what people here are showing is a huge I mean, I'm so proud to see the strengths of the society in Israel, the knowledge, the ability to fight for values and so on. So it's not about being against Israel. It's about being pro the Israeli people, the vast majority of them who are, whom we share value with. So it's an opportunity. I hope that I see. I mean, many communities worldwide do actually participate. Super important. Give us a lot of strengths. As I said, it's all about pluralistic confidence eventually. So it enhances that to the globus scale. So just continue, be part. It's an opportunity for us to fix, this as well, or to improve. I don't know if it needs to be fixed.
Okay, so we got through a lot. We didn't get through enough. There are so many more questions to ask. I don't know if you want to say a very quick word on Prime Minister Netanyahu's recent visit to America and the opportunity of this deal, the Saudi deal. If you could say a very quick word on it. There have been commentators have said it's a gift. It's going to enable the right-wing flank or the extremist flank of the government to leave, or it's going to push them to leave because they won't be able to accept the conditions for the deal, and it will be the solution. If you could say a quick word on that before we wrap up, like 1 minute.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that I do hope that we will have eventually peace with the entire world, with the entire galaxy, if I may. It will be, it's good. It just never prevented non-democratic regimes from changing their, direction. So what we should not do is becoming blind or lose our to get our eyes off the target, and this is keeping Israel or ensuring Israel liberal democratic values for generations to come, just because we are blinded by some agreement which by itself, if it's good for the country, I don't know the details and I don't know, what will be the price, etc. But if it's good, I'm happy to have that. But it's just, I remind you that a couple of years ago, Netanyahu did all this peace with the Emirates, this Abraham, and this did not prevent him from pursuing judicial coup. So also a peace, even if we have it with Saudi Arabia, will not prevent him to pursue a coup. And I can think of tons of non-democratic countries. One of them is Saudi Arabia, that have, excellent foreign relations, but certainly as a woman, but not just, you don't want to live in this country, right? So the fact that we may have peace with other countries doesn't guarantee democratic structure. Obviously, Netanyahu will try to use it as a distraction, but I think that we are now more experienced, we are wiser, we understand that. Whether it's going to be enough, I don't know, but at least we understand that this is, one thing that may be happening in the coming months. I hope it's enough to prevent it from happening. But peace, I'm pro peace.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Shikma. I'm going to, obviously as a massive personal thank you, but I'm going to hand over to Fran Levy, one of our board members who is an amazing partner and supporter of Israel, to close off our conversation. Thank you, Fran.
Thank you. I could listen for a while. This has been really terrific. I'm passionate about Israel and have devoted myself to ensuring NCJW is leveraging its power, our creativity and our influence in order to advance our vision of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state where women, children, and families of all backgrounds and identities can flourish. I'd like to say really a heartfelt thank you to you, Shikma, for all that you do, have done, and will do to save Israel's democracy.
We are doing it together. Thank you. I mean, more than 22% of the Israeli population actively participated. This is unprecedented by no matter what, measure you take. So it's the people here.
We still are grateful. Your leadership is an inspiration to us. And we're grateful that you found the time I cannot imagine how many demands are on you to meet with our NCJW community and to share with us your candid and really powerful insights on the situation that Israel is facing now. And always thank you as well to Kalela and Einat, our NCJW Israel team, for bringing us all together and for everything you do representing NCJW in Israel and representing Israel in NCJW. I'd like to reiterate what our president, Laura Mon Ginsburg, said in her opening, and what Sheila Katz, our CEO, said from the Kaplan stage to all American Jews. This is our fight too. So we invite you, our community, to sign on to a letter urging the Israeli government to abandon all of its judicial overhaul plans. Moving forward, we'll be offering new engagement and action opportunities to show our solidarity in Israel. So please stay tuned. Thank you all and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.